In the world of social media, where everyone can see what you're up to, it seems like a breeze to make money and flaunt a glamorous lifestyle. Models especially showcase their gorgeous bodies and make cash through various platforms. But sometimes, things take a dark turn. Take the tragic case of Courtney Cleaney, a former OnlyFans model. Her story took a horrifying twist when she got charged with murder. In a recent court hearing, Cleaney is accused of the terrible crime of killing her boyfriend, Christian, in their apartment in Edgewater 2 years ago. What makes it even more heartbreaking is that Cleaney's parents, Kim and Deborah Cleaney, were arrested in January. They were accused of having Christian's laptop. Now they face charges for unauthorized access of a computer, just like their daughter. Take a second now to subscribe and like the video to help the channel creating more content for you. This case shows a sad crime. In court, the family's lawyers said to the judge that they shouldn't give the prosecutors the stuff from Courtney Cleaney's and her mom's iCloud because there are private talks between lawyers on there. But the prosecutors said they might find important evidence there, like messages where Courtney's dad asked her for a laptop password. The judge didn't decide on that or some other items yet. Cleaney's lawyer also said that after the police took evidence from Courtney's place after the stabbing, they left her laptop behind, which she shared with him. He said she was allowed to use it. Cleaney is accused of second-degree murder for killing Christian. She says she did it to protect herself. Her lawyer mentioned before that they had a difficult relationship and he often behaved abusively. She got caught in Hawaii a few days after the stabbing. Investigators think she handed over the computer to her parents between the time he was killed and when she got arrested. Warrants show that detectives found text messages where her parents talked about trying to get into the computer. The prosecutors say they managed to get into Christian's computer after he died, even though they weren't supposed to. But Cleaney's lawyer argues that because she was allowed to use it, she could let her parents use it too. Do you believe her, or is it a crime that was planned and talked with her parents? Comment it down below. When you think it can't get as bad as in this case, you are wrong. In this case, there's a model from Los Angeles who became a victim of a terrible crime that happened in LA. A man from Minnesota got arrested for hurting and taking Melissa Mooney, a 31-year-old woman's life in Los Angeles. The woman was a model and a real estate agent. She was badly beaten up, tied up, and put into her own refrigerator. The authorities announced this to the public media. In downtown Los Angeles, they found the body of the beautiful model and real estate agent. Her family got worried when they hadn't heard from her for days, so they asked the police to check on her. The police was performing a welfare check, reported to the news. Magnus Humphrey, who is 41 years old, got arrested in Minneapolis because of a federal warrant that wasn't related to his case in Los Angeles. The police and the district attorney mentioned this on November 3rd. He got sent back to LA and is now in custody without bail. At his court hearing on Thursday, Humphrey said he wasn't guilty. In a statement of Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon announcing the charges, Ms. Mooney opened her home to this individual with trust, but was repaid with torture and murder. The heinous disregard for Ms. Mooney's life will not go unpunished. Justice is being sought, and he will be held accountable. Let's find out what happened on that day that led to this terrible crime. Last September, when detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department went into Mooney's apartment, they found food on her kitchen counters. They also noticed blood gathering under the refrigerator. As stated in the report from the homicide investigator, that was part of the autopsy report. Mooney's body was discovered inside the fridge. Her wrists and ankles were tied together behind her back, using electrical cords and clothing, as reported by the medical examiner. A piece of cloth was stuffed into her mouth, and there were other clothes found around her face and neck. The autopsy report says that Mooney died from someone hurting her on purpose. The doctor found that Mooney had been hit hard and had cuts on her back, left arm, face, and head. They also found cocaine and alcohol in her body, but they're not sure if they caused her death because she had such bad injuries from a fight. Officials haven't said why the attack happened, or if Mooney and Humphrey knew each other. Mooney was last seen on September 6th in her apartment building on surveillance cameras. On September 7th, someone unknown was caught on camera using Mooney's key to go up in the elevator and bringing plastic bags to her apartment. Mooney's sister, Jordan Paulin, said Mooney's laptop and other stuff were gone from her place, and someone tried to sell Mooney's phone. It's not clear if there's proof of theft. Pauline also mentioned that her sister was 2 months pregnant, which wasn't mentioned in the autopsy or confirmed by officials. A friend of the mother said that Melissa was really kind and giving. She always saw the good in people and made every place she went to brighter. Melissa was not only pretty, but also very clever. She had a very caring and generous heart. Humphrey has to go to court for a first hearing in late March. If found guilty, he could be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Men and women need to be careful and not trust someone too quickly. It's important to get to know a person well and understand them before letting them into your personal life. That way, you can stay safe. As for that awful case, it's a reminder of why it's crucial to be cautious, especially when dating. People can be more careful by taking their time to get to know someone, meeting in public places, and telling a friend or family member about their plans. What do you think about that horrific case? Write your thoughts down below. Take a second now to subscribe and like the video to help the channel creating more content for you. In next case, we're in Hong Kong, where something terrible happened involving 4 family members and the popular influencer Abby Choi. Do you know this name or her past content? Comment it down below. Let's find out what happened and led to this tragedy. 4 people from Abby Choi's family, including her ex-husband, went to court. Abby Choi was a popular influencer in Hong Kong who was tragically murdered. This shocking case has deeply shocked the entire city. The police discovered her inside the house while her family was trying to hide what happened and were attempting to remove the body. This is what the police said in their report. Choi's former husband, a 28-year-old named Alex Kwong, along with his father, who used to be a police officer, and his older brother, were accused of murder. Police said that Alex Kwong was caught on a pier. He seemed like he was trying to escape from Hong Kong on a boat. Before this, there was a search for him all over the city. They found him with about $60,000 in cash and some fancy watches. The police mentioned that Choi had some money disagreements with her ex-husband's family. They also said that her relatives were not helping the investigation much because they were giving the wrong information. Even after her divorce, Choi still took care of her ex-husband and his family, letting them stay in a fancy apartment. The argument about money was mainly about who owned this apartment. Choi used to post fancy pictures and videos of her life on Instagram. She had a lot of followers and was pretty popular as an influencer. Some of her recent posts were from Paris Fashion Week. She also posted pictures with Pharrell Williams, who is a Grammy-winning musician. Choi had 4 children, 2 of them from her ex-husband, but sadly, she passed away. This was sad for the whole community in Hong Kong and her friends, who are still shocked how someone can plan with his family such an act. What a tragic. And it goes on with a beautiful model who had quite some success at her age. She passed away when she was only 18 years old. Sally Bowman was killed in 2005. Her killer, Mark Dixie, didn't admit to the crime until 2015. Sally was an aspiring model. She was stabbed to death when she was 18 years old, coming back from a night out in Croydon. Sally Ann began her career with a great start. When she was a teenager, she went to the Brit School for Performing Arts and Technology in Croydon. That's the same school where stars like Adele and Amy Winehouse once studied. Sally Ann dreamed of being on the cover of big magazine, like Vogue. She really looked up to supermodel Kate Moss. While she pursued her dreams, Sally Ann also worked part-time as a hairdresser. In 2005, she joined a local modeling agency called Pulse Model Management. Sadly, that was the same year she was tragically murdered. In 2005, Sally Ann convinced her boyfriend Lewis to drive her home from his place in Kingston to Croydon. When Lewis arrived, they argued because Sally accused him of cheating. She decided to get out of his car. Lewis drove off with his car early in the morning. Hours later, someone found Sally's body by the roadside. A person living nearby had heard someone screaming a few hours earlier. Sally had been stabbed 7 times in her neck and stomach. 3 of the stabs were so severe that they went right through her body. There were bite marks on her cheek, neck, and chest. Mark Dixie. He got arrested and put on trial for Sally Ann's murder. So Dixie was pretty messed up that night. He was drunk and on drugs when Sally Ann died, according to reports. He admitted he with her while she was dying near her home, but he said he didn't kill her. Dixie was declared guilty of murder and given a life sentence in jail. He had to serve at least 34 years before he could be considered for release, because Dixie wouldn't confess to what he did. Sally Ann's family, including her mom Linda, dad Paul, and her 3 sisters, had to endure the trial and listen to the awful details of the attack. It wasn't until 2015 that Dixie finally confessed the murder of Sally Ann. Sally's family felt overwhelmed and upset when they couldn't bear to hear all the terrible details about the brutal actions of the monster named Dixie. It was too much for them to handle. In the next case, the jury decided that a man wasn't guilty of the murder of his ex-girlfriend. That went viral on all platforms. This decision brought a mix of emotions, relief for the man and his loved ones, but also frustration and sadness for the victim's family and friends who wanted justice. On September, the jury decided that John Christopher Clark was not guilty of second-degree murder and evidence tampering. This came after they had heard closing arguments days before in the trial where Clark was accused of killing Kira Bergman. After that, the jury discussed and thought carefully to reach their decision. Let's see what happened in this situation and what you think about it. Bergman was only 19 when she vanished. About a month later, her body was discovered in Buckeye near State Route 85. Investigators think that Bergman and Clark had an argument before she left their apartment in anger. Bergman's roommate told the police that she got a text from Bergman later, saying she was going to hang out with someone else. When Clark reported Bergman missing, there were a lot of things that didn't quite add up. He mentioned details from a text that her roommate hadn't told anyone else about. The police think Clark used Kira's phone to send a text to her roommate, trying to hide what he did. Clark was arrested and accused of second-degree murder after he gave inconsistent statements to the police. Clark's trial took place nearly 4 years after Bergman disappeared. He sat quietly in court during the proceedings. In court, the prosecutor said, "This wasn't an accident or a suicide. John Clark is responsible for ending Kira's life. He killed her." The side trying to prove guilt talked a lot about phone records, while the side defending the accused talked about how there's no proof of DNA or a clear reason for the person's death. They said there's no evidence like gunshot wounds, stab marks, or signs of being hit hard on the body. They also mentioned that nothing suspicious was found in the apartment or the accused person's car. The defense argued, "We have a dead person, but we don't know why they died. The state thinks there was a murder in the apartment, but there's no DNA or blood evidence. They even used special vacuums to collect tiny bits like fibers and hairs, but found nothing incriminating. Because there wasn't enough proof, the court didn't accuse him of murder. But the family of Kira is still working hard to gather new information and find evidence to support their case." What are your thoughts on these court cases? Take a second to write it down. Please subscribe to our channel and check out one of these videos. See you next time around. Take care.